All right, and we're gonna be back. Gonna be back on the Dyno S today. Really want to get this bike running. Read some reviews on it, and what I'm gonna do is use a relay to get a good flow of power through fresh wire. I guess when you tap into this orange wire, which comes from the kill switch, I guess you lose some volts. When I was doing my testing to try and get the bike running, I was testing it at about 10 volts. And when it was running on my car, I should be about 14 volts on that alternator on my car. So there's definitely some resistance in the wiring, in the switch, something like that. So we're going to use this now as a trigger wire instead. And then that'll trigger the relay to be able to pull power to straight from the battery. Right now there's no battery, so it's not the end of the world. I'm just going to have it, when I put it on the trickle charger for testing, just trying to get this wired in so we could set the ignition. Basically, you have some magnets on here, and you have to make sure it fires when it's supposed to fire. Otherwise, it's not gonna be a combusting right. It's not gonna fire right. So, anyways, let's get into it. I got some wiring here. Got the relay here. All kinds of stuff. This is just a basic 5-pin relay. Sometimes they sell them as 4 pins, but this is a 5-pin. So, if you need the 5-pin, make sure you get it. These pigtails are real nice. So it kind of comes with everything pre-wired, and it just plugs right in. I've used them without, and you got to put them on here, put your blade ends on here, and then those kind of suck. They kind of fall apart. So I like when I buy fuses or relays, I do try to buy these, so that way I have everything I need in one piece. If you're not familiar with how a relay works, you have your yellow wires, at least on this 85 and 86, it's basically a magnet. So when you have your ground and you have your trigger wire, and like I said, the orange wire will be the trigger wire. So when there's power to it, it'll close the magnet. There's a coil in there, and the magnet will pull the other lever, which one will be from the battery and one will go to the coil. It closes that and makes it a continuous feed. So it just kind of flip-flops. There's like a little diagram on here. It'll probably not want to zoom, so let me see what I can do. Yeah, it's not really wanting to zoom. We tried. But yeah, that's how coils work. And then it could either be, switch power off, or it could switch power on. You can use it either way. You can even use it to switch a ground. You can use it to switch a ground off and on. Real simple to use these. They're rated for 40 or 30 amps, depending on how many volts you put through it. This isn't going to be too many amps or volts. It's not going to be pulling this Dyna isn't going to be pulling that many amps. If it was, it wouldn't be pulling it through the factory wiring like they advise you to wire it. The way I'm doing it is just kind of like a better way. Like I said, I read up on. So and then I'm going to be rerunning all my wires. So I'm kind of contemplating how I want to do this. If I want to just leave a bunch of length of wire and trim it later. I think I'll do that. So I got red. Luckily I have from other project, from running some off-road lights, I have red and black. And I even have a orange that I use because I had different sources, different off-road lights. This is kind of overkill wiring for what we're doing today. I believe this is 14 gauge. I could probably get away with, a lot smaller, maybe 12 at least, or no, 12 is bigger. probably like 16 or 18 gauge. These factory wires are really small, but like I said, it's leftover wire from a job, so it's essentially free, at least right now. So I think I'm just gonna add. I'm gonna kind of get a rough idea of how much length I need, because this relay will wind up being in the tailpiece along with all the other electronics. So I'm just gonna kind of guesstimate how much I need, and then I'd rather have a little bit too much than not enough, and I can always shorten it later, or I can always oh wait, the battery's actually gonna be in the tailpiece anyway, so I won't need too much length on this, so I'm just gonna go like a foot. Yeah, you could always extend it or shorten it later, and it's not like I'm running so much wire that it's gonna lose a bunch of resistance. So even if I just tuck the wires and keep it neat and leave it, it's not that much length. It's not so much length that it's going to be losing a bunch of voltage, amps across the line or whatever. I got this 14 gauge stuff for, like I said, some off-road lights that I was running on my truck. There's a YouTube video up about that as well. That was like a 144 watt LED bar on the front. So it definitely pulls quite a bit. Trying to see what size I need for my battery connection that I don't have. Perfect. And I talked about these in a prior video, but these are marine grade. They have heat shrink, built into them, so I will be heat shrinking them, and it seals it up really well on these electrical pieces. So I'm not too worried about anything getting in there. Yeah, you could solder, but I'm going to heat shrink and tape it. I'm more comfortable with heat shrink. Do what works for you. And I've tried soldering. I have a better soldering gun, which I need to use, but I'm just, had so many issues with soldering that I just kind of, in essence, gave up. So I need somebody to teach me how to solder. I've had some success with it. It just depends. It doesn't really matter which wire you use for the yellow wires that they control the trigger wire in the ground. It doesn't really matter which one you use for it. Either one will work. It's not, polarity sensitive is the correct term. It doesn't really matter which one you put on it. It's real windy out today, but luckily the way the wind blows, it doesn't blow in my garage, so the audio quality should be pretty good. And it is not that hot. When it's not windy here, this time of year, it is like 105. When it's windy, it's like 78. It's like perfect temperature to be working out in the garage. So I am fine with that. I just posted my very first video of the motorcycle last night on YouTube. By the time you see this, it'll be like 3 weeks old or something like that, probably. I'm trying to do once a week, although I'm recording more frequently sometimes. Even though my editing is very limited, just uploading it and stuff, the uploading time actually takes quite a bit of time. For anybody that's videos on YouTube, it does take quite a bit of time. Last night, I'm doing it from my phone, and the app I'm using, you edit it and then you save it back to your phone and then you upload it to YouTube, because it's too big of a file to upload straight from the app I've been using onto YouTube. So I have to save it. So I'm kind of loading it to the app, loading it back onto my phone, finalize project it, and then loading it onto YouTube. So it's a lot of loading, and when you have hour-long, videos, that takes some time for sure. So, so the app, you can't close it out as you're loading it back onto your phone or whatever. So I get a text from my wife, and I can't ignore her, because what if it's an emergency? And so that got rid of half the load time that I already spent doing it. So that kind of sucked. But yeah, like I said, if anybody that loads onto YouTube, or that's kind of the struggles I'm going through, loading an hour-long video. I once I get comfortable with something, I want to stick with it, and so that's kind of where I'm at with this editing software. Although I'm sure there's better stuff out there. My wife was saying, oh yeah, there's one, but then come to find out, you got to pay for it. So everybody that knows me knows that I'm pretty frugal, so I did not sign up for that. Maybe once I'm doing it more, then I will, pay for it to get better editing and stuff like that. I had a heat gun and it broke, so I'm using a lighter. Torch is overkill. Lighter's just fine. It'll do exactly what I need in this case. Alright, so those wires are done. And then, so now I want 30 and 87. So 30, 87. So once we do this, then we got to finish wiring this up, and then after that, I got to get everything in time. So I'm really hoping to get this bike fired today. It's been a lot of labor, and I've been trying to chase all kinds of problems with it. After this, basically the whole ignition system is going to be brand new. I know the kill switch is working, so that's the only part of the ignition system that isn't brand new that could be an issue, but I know that that's working, so we're good there. I do plan on switching out the rest of the electronics down the road. Right now that's not the focus point, just trying to get it running, but I do that is in the agenda to swap that stuff out and get new controls and stuff like that up there. But after this, carbs are built, all new jets, brand new jets. I still have the old ones. I didn't even clean them, but I just wanted to start fresh. They were pretty bad shape, so we're starting fresh on the carbs. I got it all rebuilt, and then now we're starting fresh, basically with the ignition. So after this, there's not really any excuse why it shouldn't run. I have a little fuel reservoir. It's technically for antifreeze, like a coolant reservoir, but it was cheap. You know, they have those little fuel bags you could buy, and they're like, I don't know, $40. I think I spent $7 on this little fuel reservoir. It works just fine. It's the type of plastic that's not going to melt with gas, because some plastics will. So if you use like a little cheap solo cup for gas for whatever reason to drain a carb or something, then you'll learn real quick that that'll just eat it right up. So you do have to use certain kinds of plastic, and that plastic's okay. It's not a permanent thing. It's only a temporary solution, so I'm not too worried about it. So what's nice is I'm keeping all these colors pretty much the same. You know, I did it intentionally with the red wire. This is going to be from the battery into the relay, and then blue will be the live power straight from the battery once it gets switched to the coil. And luckily enough, I actually have some blue wire left over from that other job. And this is 14 gauge. Sometimes I have leftover remote wire from car audio installs, but this is actually from that same project I had. I have a whole bunch of yellow too I need to use. But yeah, you know, it's kind of nice to keep the colors somewhat consistent, just for future issues. I can trace wires. I am going to have to rerun a lot of these wires, so you know, it just makes it easier ultimately for future diagnostics, or you know, if I sell the bike to somebody, it's going to be easier on them as well. I don't want somebody to open up something I've done, especially if I sell it to somebody I know, and they open it up and they're like, what the hell was this guy thinking, you know? All right, and then I forgot this will go up here, so I only need to run blue wire. I thought I had to run it all the way down to the coil, but I only need to run it to about here. That should be plenty of length, especially the way I'm going to be running the wire. Should be plenty of length right there. I kind of wish I had a better selection of wiring, because then I could literally make it the same exact wire all the way through, but it'll be fine. You know, I could even kind of draw up a quick schematic of the wiring that I've modified. It'll be easy to see it later on down the road and kind of tell what's what, especially because I'm the one who did it. You know, in the video I was loading last time, I was watching it and trying to edit some out. It's funny because I was saying I'll probably contract out the carbs, but I went ahead and rebuilt them. Honestly, they're really not that hard. They're probably the same carbs you would see on like a 50, no, probably not 50cc, but on a scooter, like a small scooter. But they only have one carb. This has 4. So, you know, of course I say that now without them running and giving me issues, but you know, I did have to replace one carb. I kind of eyeballed there's a bar that kind of sets the idle to make them all in sync. So when you pull the cable, the butterfly valves open all at the same time. I kind of eyeballed that to the best of my ability. The fuel mixture screws, I did not adjust. There's covers on them, and I didn't go there, so that's one thing that might have to be adjusted from here. And then I think that's pretty much it. I know I'm going to rejet them for pods, but I kind of just want to get running for right now. I did get new carb boots because these ones are all stiff. The rubber's real stiff. These were a pain in the ass. Excuse my language. They were a pain to get on the motor, and there's not even any bands. I mean, they're in there good, and they're being held up by no bands. So those actually should be coming through Amazon like any minute now. They said they were like 10 stops away, and that was, you know, probably an hour ago. So I don't know, maybe they stopped for lunch, but that should be here literally any second now. So, and you know, you want to get new boots so you don't have any air leaks there, because if you have air leaks, then you're going to be having idle problems. So what else do I have on order? I have spark plugs on order. 2 of these are, sparking just fine. They do look like they could be replaced, so I just went ahead and ordered them. They're not too bad on price, like $20 or whatever, I don't know. Even through Amazon, though, they're going to take forever to get here because it's probably overseas where they're shipping them from. They're NGKs, so. And I'm testing all my connections before I melt them because you want to make sure you have that good connection. Once you melt them, it'll honestly hold it all together. So it'll hide issues, and then you have resistance if you have a connection issue. So you definitely don't want to have connection issues. Your connections can overheat and melt stuff, so you definitely don't want that. So here's my custom relay wiring harness. Like I said, right now it's just kind of gonna lay there and kind of connect everything together. I need to redo a couple grounds on here too, because I was taking everything apart. And where'd I put my I just moved my GS screwdriver. So I finally bit the bullet and got a GIS screwdriver, Japanese industrial something screwdriver. These bikes can be finicky because they're all JIS connections, and I've kind of learned that already. So I just went ahead and bought one off Amazon. It wasn't too bad on price, so like $15. Of course, I got the wrong one though, so that kind of adds to the price, which is always fun. So. So we'll get this wired up. I'm probably gonna make this one video, just the ignition. Before this one, I have another video that needs to be loaded, and then this one. So, like I said, I'm trying to do at least once a week. I still work full time, still have other life's things pulling me, so I'm sure all you guys can understand that. Alright. So the only thing that's not grounded now is the coil, which I can kind of try and ground. I did have it grounded just through a jumper wire, but I guess I could just do that again. Just use a jumper wire for grounding on that, so everything is properly grounded when I try to start it. Otherwise, you will have issues. I'm just going to use the seat mount. It was actually the locking mechanism. I'm just going to use that to hold this relay for now. It's just a temporary measure. I mean, I'm not going to be riding the thing. It's just going to kind of hold it so I could run my wires and keep things as organized as possible. So that would go down there. I guess I could have even there's a couple other things I could have done. I am pulling it straight from the battery. I could have used this relay, but right now this will work. I'll just pull it straight from the battery. What I'm using for testing is a battery tender anyway, a battery charger, like a 10 amp charger. So it's enough to get that going. what's nice is like all these wires even match. If you were using the OEM coils, got these bullet connectors on here. So let me refer to my wiring diagram. Trying to simplify this as much as possible. Even though they give me bullet splice connectors, doesn't mean I have to use them. I think in my wiring mess here, I think I do have bullets and I never use them. No, I don't. I just have a male female in, so I'll probably do that and then melt them together. Trying to make sure I have this wiring right. Trying to decide if I want to use these factory connects right here, because I already modified these to accept them, the new coils. I can. I mean, I probably should. I think I will. So if I do that, then I'll cut these wires out. I'll cut it back, and then I'll do my splices in at different points, so that way it's not too thick. It doesn't add too much thickness. Yeah, so I don't even need, so actually I don't even need any of these wires because I'm bypassing the ignition wire with this relay. So this orange wire does need to go this orange wire, and then it'll go straight, my new blue wire, which will be straight from the battery after the relay, will go straight to the coils and this right here. So trying to decide how I want to do it. Make sure I have a good enough length on these so I can still use them. Let's put them back in their respective plugs, excuse me. All right, so now I need those connections to be solid. I might be able to get that in there. And now that I think of it, I need, yeah, that's on the blue wire. Sorry, I'm just trying to make sure I'm doing it right. I think for right now, for testing, I'm going to do that, kind of wrap it up around it a couple times, and then I'll get some tape in there. And then I might even just solder it down the road and try my new soldering gun. I know I have a different color tape around here. Here's some red electrical tape. Leave it like that for right now. But I'll keep it protected from the other wires. So that's my trigger wire. Going to the relay. I didn't even tuck it along the frame or anything like that because it's not a permanent thing. And then blue will go to these orange wires and to this red wire. So this red wire has like a bullet connector. I haven't decided if I want to use it or not, so I'll probably wind up using it. It comes with a butt splice connector, which nobody likes. I've used them before with somewhat good luck. If you have a thick enough wire, it'll be fine. But they have better splice, things. But this is it right here, and it bites down on one of the existing wire and then crimps the other one. But since I'm running a new wire anyway, we don't have to do that. So we could run this into here. And that's just a bullet connector, and then tap into there. But honestly, these are going to be the same length. So this is meant, if you are running wires, I think more OEM, which is what we're not doing. So I'm thinking is we cut this end off because we need to have these orange wires, the red wires, and the blue wire all one piece. So I'm thinking is we cut this little bullet connector off because the white wires are right next to here. So it'll all be right next to each other and it'll be a lot cleaner of an install. So we'll just cut this bullet connector off. I'm going to cut it short to keep as much wire as I need. So I just lost the length if I wanted to reuse that, but that's fine. I don't plan on reusing it. And this is probably going to need a bigger, joining all these wires, probably going to need a bigger, more like a 10 gauge probably. I have my energy drink right down where I'm throwing all this garbage from my stripping, so I should probably move that. Although that's kind of the best spot for it right now, but oh well. Alright, so that's on there real good. And then I need the female end, or the male end. And that's what we'll do. We'll just put them together. And that works just as good as the bullet connector, to be honest with you. It'll hold it really well. I still gotta, while I'm doing some of this, I should start running some of these wires how it's gonna be, but I mean, I know some things are gonna be set, some things I'm gonna have to adjust, so we'll get these two together. That honestly might be too big. Okay. And you want to melt these before you connect them. The other one has like a covering that goes over the male part, but I don't think I'm going to melt that right now in case I need to undo anything. So I'm just going to melt up against the wires. So that's done. Yeah, see, I don't know how much you can see, but it goes all the way over there, but I don't want to melt that part yet. I'm trying to think how I'm going to wind up running this wiring. I think I'll still be able to tuck it pretty well all the way up. They don't give you much length on it, I'll tell you that. Which is something I read in the reviews as well, so nothing I didn't expect. Oh yeah, it's like barely enough wiring. Let's move this. These wires are confusing me. Yeah, that'll work. Oh, I forgot to melt it. We do multiple wires. It doesn't get as good of a seal, but it'll do just fine. Once I'm ready, I'll wind up adding tape to it to, hold it all in place and get a good cover. I want it to look, once I'm done minimizing the wires, that's still really hot. Once I'm done minimizing the wires, I will clean up the wiring, tape it all back up, just to make it look real nice and presentable. And like I said, I don't have any bullet connectors. I had some of those other ends though that I might temporarily use. Now where did I put them? The wife came and helped me organize the other day, or didn't help me organize, she organized for me. So that means I don't know where anything is usually. Oh, I found one on the ground. So here's one. And I see the other one. Sweet. So earlier video I said cut some links so you could save these and use them somewhere else if you need to, and now I'm going to be using them for something else. And I mean, I don't really need to use the bullet connectors because it has the factory, I'm retaining this factory disconnect for if I need to change the coils out in the future. So I could just change the coils and not the whole ignition system like I am now. But it makes sense, so we might as well just do it. I have these bullet connectors, so otherwise I got to cut these, put splices on them, and then tap into that wire. You know what? Let's do that. We'll do that instead. Because, you know what? I don't really have that many of those, that size splice. Yeah, I kind of like that. I have one splice left for this small wire, so either way I'm gonna need it to connect those, so that kind of sucks. So I might have to go to a bigger size. I definitely need to order some more connections, not a whole new kit, but some more connections. I think we could get away with, yeah, it'll work. These are like 16-14, so we'll do that. We'll just cut them off and we'll go straight into them because we have this disconnect right here, and it'll be a cleaner install. There's no, you know, the purpose of bullet connectors is being able to undo them. But if I have a disconnect right here, then what does it matter? This coil should last a lot longer than the last one. So we'll cut these off real short. I mean, there's no need for these really. So we'll cut those short, strip everything, crimp everything. And if I could, I would stagger these connections so it's not one big bulk mess. But this coil wire's, you know, the wire coming from the dyna is already so short, so I don't think I'm gonna do that. Just because there's just not enough room, to be honest. But I'll be able to tuck it up underneath the seat. So far I like this dyna. I think it's gonna work out really well. Based on everything I've heard and read about it. So I'm just lucky that this bike has a mechanical advance. Otherwise I would have had to buy more parts. Even though it's electronic ignition, it has a mechanical advance instead of a electronic. If it had an electronic one, I would have had to buy a mechanical one, and it would have been more leg work essentially. So it definitely worked out in this case. This bike is ahead of its time in some aspects and behind its time in others because of that. It's not really electronic ignition, or it's not really points. It's kind of a combination of the two. It had a igniter box like it had points, but it had electric pickups, so it's kind of in between. But in this case it worked out. So and points aren't all that bad. Some people don't like points. If I had points on this, I'd probably leave it. I don't know. I guess if it was giving me problems, I wouldn't. But usually points are pretty easy. You just clean them up, set them, and you're done. You just leave it. Again, just checking all the connections before you finalize them, before you heat shrink them. That's another reason why I like these crimpers instead of these orange ones. Because on these orange ones, the crimp is way down here, so you gotta like, you know, fish it in, and it's a pain in the butt. So, and these are a lot heavier duty. They'll last a lot longer under high tension. You can crimp the hell out of them. They do insulated, they do non-insulated. They kind of do all of it really. And I just got them. They look just like Klein tools, but they're just from the local big box cheap tool store. So when they break, I could just literally take it back. Even those orange ones, you know, I didn't realize it, and I bought a couple pairs, but when those break, you could just take them back too, and those give you a new set. And they will break. They kind of, the rivet that holds it together kind of starts to get worn out, and when you go to crimp, it'll like twist, and then it doesn't get a good crimp. It looks like it's a good crimp, but it's loose. It's always loose, and you know, that's when I know I need to replace them. So I decided that I'm just going to use those. I said this in the video I just loaded last night, but I kind of stumbled on my wording. But I just use them for stripping the wires now. I don't use them for crimping. I don't use them for wire cutting because it just messes everything up. So, and because I was using it for everything before, I even had wire stripper mess up. It wasn't working right because of that. So now I'm just going to use it just for the stripping. And then, oh, that's the tight fit. There it goes. That should go in more. There it goes. All right, so now that's all connected. So now if I put power to it, as I rotate it, I should be getting a signal. So now I gotta get a test light, which I have one right here somewhere. Yep. what you do is you connect this to a ground. Connect it to a ground, and then as you rotate it, it should be lighting up. Or it should be disconnecting the light. That's what it is. And I think it's on the trigger wire. So let me get this put in here so it'll kind of stay. I need to get the battery tender or battery charger on so I get some power to it. And then we'll be able to kind of see where our timing's at. There's definitely a lot of wires I'm eliminating doing all this. Alright, so this and this, those need to be attached to power. Let me get a clamp so I can securely have that so it doesn't go flying and arc out. So this will kind of hold those wires together on the frame. Or at least hold the main wire. And then these connections are pretty worn out. I got this for free, and they're the connections are pretty well shot. All right. I think I got it. As long as I don't touch it. Plug it in. Son of a gun. All this wire mess crisscrossed. All right. Try this again. All right, so we should have power. Now, I do gotta be careful with this relay because if the ignition is off, I should have live power on this wire right here. This one, let me see. I heard the relay go that we just installed. So that's good. We test for wire power. So we got power to our coil. We have power, sorry, to our dyna, not to our coil. Now we gotta turn the crank. Oh, got me a little zap. A little bit of a wake up. So something has a, not a loose connection, but maybe I just touched the metal and it ground it out. All right, so I'm getting 10 volts out of my battery charger, which is kind of odd. So maybe that was my problem the whole time. Maybe I didn't need this relay, but that's fine. Oh, there goes the Amazon package.